Okay.
Okay.
Kung Ching does will the Sangha for the sake Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchedoye holahudi samyao sanputoshe. Wu shang shen shen wei miao fa bai qian wan jie nan zao yu. Wo jin jian wan de shou chi yuan jie ru lai zhen shi yi. Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in billions of eons. Now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Venerable Master, Dharma friends, welcome to our Sutra lecture. My name is Heng Sure, and I'm really happy to be with you today as we together look into the Flower Garland Sutra. Let me share my screen here. There we are. All right. It's a pleasure to be here. Today is April 12th, 2020 in the Gold Coast of Queensland. It's April 11th on a Saturday night in California, where many of you are tuning in. But I want to express my gratitude to both Sam for requesting Dharma and helping translate, and Cliff for sending our broadcast to China in Mandarin so that friends can join in from around the world. Thanks to Locke and to Jerry for putting this online, and also to the Sangha at the Berkeley Buddhist Monastery for contributing their comments and their wisdom tonight as the lecture proceeds. So when we return to this place in the text, we're going to come back to page 22 in our text. But before that, we're going to focus in on the title of the sutra, and it's an invocation of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas of the Flower Garland Assembly. That's what we do here. There's no excuse for banjos to be out of tune, you know. This is, after all, the 21st century, so. Here we go. Fix that. Don't you wish all the world's problems were that easy to fix? Here we go. Here we we're going to chant in Chinese, Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yan Jing, Hua Yan Hai Hui Fo Hu Sa, which means, the text above it, homage to the Buddha's Flower Garland Sutra of great expansive teachings and the ocean-wide Flower Garland Assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yan Jing, Hua Yan Hai Hui Fo Hu Sa, Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yan Jing, Hua Yan Hai Hui Fo Hu Sa, last time. Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Hua Yan Jing, Hua Yan Hai Fo Hu Sa. We're going to be inviting that banjo, Clifford Essex banjo from Great Britain, probably in the 1930s. We're going to invite that banjo back to do some chanting on Medicine Buddha. Last week we tried the mantra, Medicine Buddha's mantra for Guanding, for anointing the crown of the head. And today's topic on the sutra is all about Guanding, that christening, the called Abhisheka in Hindu and Buddhist liturgies. We're going to find out more about that. That's coming up today. And it's suitable because we're in the midst of a global crisis. A pandemic is happening, as you all know, as we all know. And Medicine Buddha's Dharma, the healing Buddha, is appropriate to invoke at this time, to send some of that good vibration out to all of us, to the world. Also, we're going to try chanting the name of the Buddha, medicine master, the healing Buddha who dispels calamities and lengthens life, who sends Buddha of Vaidurya lapis lazuli light. So we got that coming up later today. We have been, let me talk about where we are right now. We've been in our sutra talking about, talk about light. Here's a being of light. So I don't know if you can see my lorikeet. We'll get to that later. Here we go. What's going on in our sutra? This is the Flower Garland Sutra, and this is a major Mahayana text. The tradition says this is the sutra, this is the teaching the Buddha spoke first immediately upon his awakening under the Bodhi tree. It's what he saw through his newly awakened vision, his vision that had no limits, no boundaries to it, no governor. All of the sense input was coming at once, and the Buddha's mind was able to hold it all. We're exactly there in the sutra where the text describes the process that takes one to that place where your mind is now able to absorb synesthesia, all the different senses coming in at once without any interruption, without any conflict, without any overwhelming of the me, of mine, of the true self. Also, no confusion going on. There's no, there's an ability to hold it precisely because of where that all came from. Where did it come from? It came from samadhi. Samadhi is a progressive stabilizing of the mind and body, so that when consciousness transforms to wisdom, which it does through a process, a gradual process that the Buddha described, the results of that opening of what was previously very limited, very binary in nature, is now universalized, right? It's what's the opening of binary to the limitless? It's been infinitized, right? We got infinitized. The Buddha's mind did. And so all of that input does not shatter the Buddha's mind. And that's why it's called the stage of the Dharma cloud, Fa Yun Di, where in a minute, not in a minute, in a week, when we get to the next part of the text, there are many analogies of the capacity of the ocean. The ocean can take all of the rain that can fall, and it doesn't overflow. And so the sutra says, the Buddha in this chapter says, that's the mind of the bodhisattva at the 10th stage. So, yeah. By comparison, what are we like? We get upset when we can't leave our home, right? Because that's unquote unnatural, antisocial, abnormal. I'm quarantined here inside these walls, and I don't like it. I can't stand it. I'm going nuts. I'm bouncing off the walls. And I saw some friends the other day whose pets they have 2 dogs. They're staying at home with 2 dogs, and the dogs are freaking out because they want to get out and run, and the apartment is just too small, and they're stuck in there with their owners, right? So we can't stand that. Our capacity is small compared to the bodhisattva. Just who can be patient? Who can really endure the enforced company of our family, of our, what if we're alone? What if we're there by ourselves? Can we take solitude, right? We're at a time right now in the world, in the planet, where capacity for patience is being tested as never, ever, ever before. So that's what our sutra is about. It's immediately applicable because here, by comparison, is a human. The bodhisattva is a person who has developed capacities that are innate, they're inherent. They're all this ability to endure, to be well in the midst of crisis is all in each of us. But it's been cultivated out, it's been refined, it's been put on the road tested, right? So, okay, here we go. Let us move now to today's text. What were we looking at? We were looking at lights, and the sutra pays a lot of attention to light. That is a constant refrain that returns, light and darkness, and how light banishes darkness. So the lights, we've been watching lights circle around and perform what are miracles, right? Science can't explain how light could make offerings to Buddhas and then to bodhisattvas, and then return from the crown of the Buddha, the crown of the bodhisattva's head, the lights enter the Buddha's feet and then return out of the head of the Buddha to speak Dharma. How astonishing, right? How amazing this is. So once these lights performed these displays, they returned to merge into the crown of the head of the great bodhisattva and the crowns of the heads of the other bodhisattvas. And at that point, the bodhisattva attained hundreds of thousands of unprecedented samadhis. And it was called, he was now Shou Zhi Wei. He'd been appointed merging with the state of a Buddha and replete with the 10 powers. We talked last week about what those 10 wisdom powers are like. And the last line says, 多在佛术. He is now considered to be one with the Buddhas. One with the Buddhas. Okay. We are now on the bottom of page 22, the last paragraph. It starts with 佛子如转轮圣王. Right? Okay. We'll read that. And we're going down. 妙经之作. We're going down to 义德名为转轮圣王. Okay, that's our passage today. Okay, I'm going to put my palms together. Welcome to join me if you care to. This is the words of the Buddha in the mouth of a bodhisattva. So here we go. 佛子如转轮圣王所生太子，母是正后，身相具足。其转轮王令此太子作白象宝，妙经之作。张大网幔，见大船帆，燃香散花，奏诸音乐，取似大海水，指金瓶内，王之此瓶冠太子顶。是时即名受王职位，堕在官顶刹立王树，既能具足行事善道，亦得名为转轮圣王。Okay. All right, here's the English. Disciples of the Buddha, just as when a prince is born to a wheel-turning monarch, and his mother is the queen, he develops all the requisite physical hallmarks. The wheel-turning monarch sets his son, the prince, on a splendid gold throne on top of the white elephant. They unfurl latticework curtains and lift up big banners and pennants, then light incense, strew flower petals, and play music. Water from the 4 oceans fills a golden vessel, which the king holds to anoint the crown of the prince. This is known as being appointed to the rank of a king. Ever after, the prince is counted as a Kshatriya king who has been anointed on the crown. He immediately is able to practice the 10 wholesome paths, and he is called a wheel-turning monarch. Boy, who says the Flower Garland Sutra is philosophy? This is theater. We're in the midst of an ancient ritual, a ceremony called consecration. In India, it was called Abhisheka. This is a ceremony that is found among the Egyptians, found among the earliest Christian rites, Jewish ceremonies, ancient Hebrew practices. It's mentioned in the Bible. It's part of Buddhist practices from the earliest times. So worldwide, in every religion, people practice this guanding, guan, 第四声哈, guanding, right? Guanding, yeah. 不是官顶, guanding, okay. Which means the character guan shows water and a pitcher. So the idea is that, well, let's look at it. I want to describe this process. It's fascinating because of its universality. First of all, look at the text. Disciples of the Buddha, when a prince is born to a wheel-turning monarch and his mother is the Zheng Ho, it says, he develops the requisite physical hallmarks. So this is an extended analogy for who? For the 10th stage bodhisattva. That's the first thing. So it's just as when, piru, right? How does it go in Chinese? It's 当然是菩萨的为所的百万岁，佛子如, right? 转轮圣王. The same way as when, right? So we see that. We know this is an analogy. But in describing what our 10th stage bodhisattva is now qualified to do, it goes deep into this ceremony called, it's got multiple names in English. We can call it coronation, not coronation, sound like corona, right? Call it a consecration, that's our word, consecrating. It's also called anointment, like ointment, anointment, consecration. Investiture is another word that we use, but they all have this unique aspect of having the top of the head, and in the Roman Catholic version, it's the hands as well, sprinkled with oil or water. Here it's the water from the 4 seas, but I'm ahead of myself again. Let's go back. Disciples of the Buddha, like when a prince is born to a wheel-turning monarch and his mother is the queen, he develops the requisite physical hallmarks. Okay, implicit in this is the idea that kings have harems, have multiple wives. What is a wheel-turning monarch? Wheel-turning monarchs require some attention here. Wheel-turning monarchs are a phase, a dharma realm of devas. They are Tianren. Or they are in between humanity and the devas. But in the Buddhist description of the cosmos, he says there are levels of heavens. The Buddha described multiple levels of the realm where devas live, where gods live. Now, if you're, as I was, raised in a monotheistic realm, you have to suspend that as the only alternative option, the only option for gods, and say, let's leave the monotheistic realm, which is geographically, culturally, temporally limited, and go to another part of the planet where that's not the only story in town, right? There are polytheistic realms, like Hinduism, for example, Hinduism, Brahmanism. There are non-theistic realms, like the Buddhist description of how the world is actually built. What does he say? He says there's the realm of humans, and directly above the realm of humans, there's a realm of devas, the first one of which is the heaven realm, the divine realm of the 4 kings of heaven, 四大天王, the 4 major kings of heaven. And these are wheel-turning monarchs. They come in 4 varieties: gold, silver, copper, and iron, or bronze, copper, and iron. Those are the 4 different kinds. Jin, yin, tong, tie, 4 different kinds. And they have different jobs. They rule different compass points, north, south, east, west. Their jobs often are kind of security patrol for the Buddha and for the other devas against demons and negative energies in the world, which from the Buddhist description are really there. So wheel-turning monarchs, and they have wheel-turning monarchs, fascinating, have treasures. Let's see if where's my wheel, or did I do it I saved it under Chakravartins. Chakravartin. You'll see in the name chakra, right? Chakra. Chakravartin is a wheel turner. Just that's how you translate that. Let's see, does the Chakravartin, no, wheel turning, let's see. Wheel turning. I'm doing a search on my computer here. Wheel turning, Maitreya, Zhuanlan Shengwang. Yes, got it right here. Okay, I'm going to bring this up. And wheel-turning kings, as they take on this role, just the way we've been described right here in the Avatamsaka Sutra, as they become kings, immediately, it's like part of the blessings of being consecrated as a king is you have 7 treasures, 七种宝贝, 七宝. One is what's called a wheel bao, a wheel treasure. And the Master Hua described this wheel as like a golf cart in the sky, right, for traveling. It's a vehicle, it's a vessel, it's a wheel, and you boom, you zoom around, kind of like what's the wheel that you stand on that was invented? I forgot the name. Police use them. You see them in airports. What's that called? A something that you roll around on. And I've never had the experience, but they're supposed to be quite marvelous. The second one, what is the second treasure of a wheel-turning monarch, is elephants. Now, this is, mind you, rooted in Indian description where elephants are still, to this day, commonplace. But in our sutra today, the king puts his son on an elephant before he goes into the ceremony. Okay, so here we go. Somebody has given me the information. It's a Segway, correct. Call this Segway. That's the wheel jewel, right? The modern day wheel jewel, Segway. Thank you. Yeah. Third is what? So we have a wheel jewel, a elephant jewel. We have a horse jewel, Tian Ma, the horses of heaven. They are, anybody who appreciates fine horses would love to know about the horse jewel that is part of becoming a wheel-turning monarch. They are, you can imagine what kind of a horse, how splendid, and the communication one could have with a horse. The fourth treasure is zhubao, is called pearl. It's pearl, but it's a jewel, actually a gemstone treasure. That is, belongs to the king as he becomes. They say the blessings of the king's position simply call these into being. They just appear because it's part of being a king. The fifth one is of interest. It's called Nu Bao, which means female. And what would we say with using the wisdom of the 21st century? Clearly, the Nu Bao means you have the best advisors in the world. You have women as your consultants, as your senators, as your, if you're lucky, you've got them as your chief executive, right? They don't take you to war as often if they are the prime minister, and they know how to respond with compassion. So the women treasure. The sixth one is the Ju Shi Bao, and the lay person. That would be what? That would be your staff, your trusted assistants, your Dharma friends, right? It says layman is the literal translation, but it means your team, your people you deal with on a daily basis, who support, who advise, who help, right? Who make things happen, make it work. And then the last one is Bing Chen. I like that it's last, which is your soldiers and your ministers. Who the women jewel, the female jewel comes first, means they are valued because of their ability to lead and to advise, and the soldiers and the ministers, the political ministers, come towards the end. So what have we got? We got a wheel vehicle, got a vehicle, an elephant, a horse, jewels, female advisors, laymen, the team, and then the generals and the ministers come last. So there's also, when you become a wheel-turning monarch, you have 4 virtues that arrive with the position. One is longevity. You live a long time. 2 is you're free of illness. That's timely, isn't it? Then the Chinese is 容貌出色, right? You extraordinary appearance. You look kingly. You look regal. And the last one is 宝藏丰富, lots of wealth. So you have much wealth. So those are the virtues of being a monarch in the Deva's realm. And interestingly, Master Hua would say, this is great to be a wheel-turning king, but in the Buddha's Dharma assembly, they don't even have a place to sit down. They have to stand. So from our position as humans here on the planet Earth, with our short lifespans, with our crises, with our pandemics, the role of a wheel-turning king, a Chakravartin monarch, sounds just sublime, right? From the point of view of the Buddha's Dharma assembly, when you look at the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, and you look at even the Brahma heaven gods, the wheel-turning monarch is, Sherpa said, it would be not even as elevated as a postmaster who takes care of the mail, from the Buddha's point of view. So don't long to be a wheel-turning sage king, a Chakravartin, even though they have their role and they're certainly as important as any other in the 10 Dharma realms. So now, when it says the mother is the queen, his mother is the queen, I think that is to say not a concubine, right? Not a consort picked for her beauty only or her talents. She's picked because she is married to the king properly. When the king was seeking a wife, that's the one that brings forth on the body of the son, the prince, the 32 hallmarks. Okay, so that's the wheel-turning monarch, the wheel-turning sage king. And humans become Chakravartin monarchs. How? Through doing the 10 good deeds and living according to a code of conduct, right? The 5 precepts. That's it. 风行, 言持无戒, 风行十善, Master Hua would say. Holding those 5 precepts, living that way, living according to wisdom's behavior, and then doing the 10 good deeds, avoiding the 10 evil deeds. So interesting that if you want to go to heaven, be the best possible person. There you go. That's a real Buddhist teaching. Good people go to heaven, right? Become devas. But good devas become bodhisattvas. Good bodhisattvas become Buddhas. So the heavens is not the goal. That was Master Hua's point. All right, so that's the injunction about the wheel-turning monarchs. So what happens next? Here in our sutra, oh my goodness, drama, right? We're into this ceremony already. The wheel-turning monarch takes his son, the prince, and builds the platform, the stairs required to get on top of the elephant. Gold throne. You ever see those pictures of how what a Indian prince sitting on top of the regal elephant looks like? It's architecture. It's a structure up high. You have to climb on the platform to get up the stairs to the top of the elephant. And the elephant has to stand there while you do all this. You can't walk away, or else it's embarrassing to be the son who's fallen off the platform. So the wheel-turning monarch sets his son, the prince, on a splendid gold throne on top of the white elephant. Oh boy. Here we go. Now, what next? There is more ceremony that has to take place. Latticework curtains are unfurled. Big banners are lifted up and pennants. Incense is lit. Flower petals are strewn. There's a verb you don't get to use very often. Strewn. Strew some petals. And music is played. So it is a big do. There's a lot of pomp and circumstance happening here as the boy is about to become a man. The prince is about to become a king. Okay. So the king takes a vessel, a golden vessel, and this is key, which it has water from the 4 oceans in it. And he uses it to anoint the crown of the prince. He sprinkles water, perhaps, pours water. There's, of course, protection for the priceless robe that the prince is wearing. And I'll tell you a little bit about what I saw in a minute. This is known as being appointed to the rank of the king. And after that, after having been through this ceremony, the prince is called a kshatriya, king, who has been anointed on the crown. Kshatriya is the second of the 4 castes in India. It is the warrior caste. It's the ruling caste. It's where kings and generals were great real scholars who have been well trained in both Wen and Wu, both in literary and in martial arts. And it's a position of power. Why is the king from the second caste? It's because the first caste in the Indian system is who? First caste is the Brahmins. And the Brahmins are not military beings, they're not political beings, they're not aristocrats, they are priests, right? So the highest caste is the priests who have the job of keeping heaven and earth together by offering sacrifices. They are in the Hindu Brahmin system, they keep the fires lit. My dear Chinese teacher of Chinese, there we go. My goodness. We have a YouTube video depicting the consecration of Queen Elizabeth. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, thank you for that. That's on YouTube. We're not going to go there at the moment, but maybe somebody can copy that out to the YouTube folks. Not that I'm suggesting you leave our lecture behind. Stick with us. There's more to come. But we do have copied that link out so we can watch Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth be consecrated on YouTube back when it happened. What now, 60 years ago? Or was it 70? No, she became queen when she was in her 20s, right? So, okay. The Kshatriyas and the Brahmins. The Brahmins, I was saying my lovely, most appreciated teacher of Chinese, Amitendranath Tagore, the grandnephew of the great Indian poet Rabindranath Tagore. Professor Tagore was my teacher in Michigan and at a small university known as Oakland University. And he would describe, of course, he was Brahmin from the start, as was his wife and his kids. We got to know the whole family because it was a small community studying Chinese. He had followed his great uncle into literature, but into Chinese literature, and he had been to Beijing and just loved Chinese and conveyed that love of Chinese culture and literature. But when he talked about his great uncle, he would talk about Rabindranath Tagore, and Professor Tagore would say, "Oh my goodness," he'd say, Brahmins, they must get up in the morning because if they fail to do it, the sun will not be able to rise. And from the point of view, he was portraying an attitude of Brahmins, that their sacrifices, their offerings, their rituals are necessary to make the sun rise. So that was the attitude and the job of the first caste. Kshatriyas are the second. I have a question from, let's see here. Within the Mahayana, are there sutras that teach loving kindness and compassion and bodhicitta? What are their names? Okay. So a question is, in the Mahayana Tripitaka collection, are there sutras that teach loving kindness and compassion and bodhicitta? What are their names? As my saintly Vermont ancestors would say, don't you move a dad burned inch, right? You're right where you want to be. The Flower Garland Sutra. I want to convey to folks who are new to the Mahayana tradition, there's a reason why it's called Mahayana, right? The large vehicle, not in contrast to the small vehicle. But if you open the Mahayana canon, the Dazang Jing, the Tripitaka, and go to the sutra basket of the three baskets, you will find 1,600 texts that have the word sutra at the end. Now, are all of them full of kindness and compassion and bodhicitta? No, not all. Some are short, some are focused on emptiness, like the Prajna Sutras, but there are many, 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 many Mahayana Sutras that talk exclusively about loving kindness and the bodhicitta, right? That is, if anything, the main teaching of the Mahayana Sutras. And not only so, the answer is yes. The short answer, yes. There are many. What are their names? Let me give you this sutra that we're explaining right now, and I can specify. We talked about it last week. We talked about Maitreya Bodhisattva as he whose purpose, Maitreya's hallmark is kindness, right? He is the best, kindest of the great bodhisattvas. So last week we talked about Maitreya welcoming the pilgrim Sudana to the end of his pilgrimage, the successful completion of a journey that took him 12 years to 52 teachers. Maitreya is number 50, and he greets him. And as he greets him, he gives him 100 analogies for the Bodhi resolve, the Putishin, the Bodhicitta. He says the Bodhi resolve is like a vast mountain covered with snow in its purity. And he gives some verses, explaining it. The Bodhicitta is like the brilliant sun rising in the east to bring life to all that lives. The Bodhi resolve is like a pure moon rising to cool off the earth, and it goes on and on. So throughout the Flower Garland Sutra, the Bodhi resolve is mentioned. If you could do a search, there are now digital tools that allow you to type in Puti Shin, Bodhi resolve, Bodhicitta, and get the number of hits in a single sutra. And if it's the Flower Garland Sutra, it may be tens of thousands of times that it comes up. I don't know. That may be too many. But somebody can do that. Jin Chuan, you can type in Putishin into the Flower Garland Sutra. There are 3 sutras, 3 Flower Garland editions to choose from. But Te Saja Guru Vaidurya Pravarajaya Adya Anaya Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Ajata Om Vaisaje Amma Vaisaja Samudgate Swaha Om Bhagavate Vaisaja Guru Vaidurya Pravarajaya Tatagataya Arahate Samyak Sambudaya Ajyata Om I Saje Mahavasaja Samudgate Swaha Om Namo Bhagavate Vasaja Guru Vaidurya Pravarajaya Tatagataya Arahate Samyakambhaya Ajyata Om Asaje Mahasaja Samudgate Swaha. That's the Medicine Buddha mantra that we can keep reciting, by golly, not only when we're listening to sutras, but we can keep reciting all the time. It gives us something very positive to do when we're dealing with our pandemic, right? So let's see here. YouTube is ready now. All right. Are we back? Is all good? Is the streaming stronger now, the frame rate? Okay, I trust it is. Okay, now I wanted to share with everybody something interesting, which is the anointing of the crown, the consecration of other traditions. Let's look at Samuel anointing the crown of King David. This is the prophet Samuel. This is the 3rd century, an image of the 3rd century. Here is the young boy, King David, and oil is being poured on the crown of his head, you'll notice. He is surrounded by his advisors. King David is going to lead his people forward as the king, right? How about that? We have an ancient Egyptian king. I don't have the name of this king, but notice that these priests, one is a hawk or falcon, probably a peregrine, and the other might be a snake, can't tell. And they are holding these sacrificial vessels on the head of the Egyptian, over the head of the Egyptian king, so that the oil, which is perfumed oil, and there's a variety of substances that are used for sacred oil, is being used to anoint the crown of the head of the Egyptian king. Yeah, how about that? Here's a picture of Jesus being anointed. This one of the stories from the life of Jesus. And we have a question here, comment. Oh, might need to reshare my screen. Oh, gotta reshare my screen. Only see the text. Got it. Okay. Let's see here. Stop sharing and share again. There it is. Okay. Let me go back. I want you to be able to see. And keep my chat window open so I can read as we go. Got it. All right. There we are. Okay, let's go back. I wanted to share with you let's see here, content, present, ancient Egypt. Here's the Egyptian image. Can you see the Egyptian? Do I have to share it? Oh, I have to share it every time. I see. Okay, back to every single image requires. Okay, in that case, with that in mind, let me stop sharing. And I'm going to go back. Hold on here. Learning how to do this, friends. I'm going to the Jane sharing, Jane anointing. Share my screen. Here we are. Okay. This is an image of Mahavir. Is it Mahavir or is there Jayashri? It's one of the sacred Jain images. Notice what's going on here. The devotees are up above on a platform, and they're way up high because this is a massive sacred image, an image sacred to the Jains. And Shravana, so can't tell quite. And they are pouring milk on top of the head of their image that they adore, that they are devoted to. So a Jain practice. The other pictures that I have here that I'll can share one by one, I suppose, are let's do that. I'll stop sharing and then go. I want you to see royalty being anointed. Here is, I'm going to do this one. This is Tsar Nicholas II, right there. Here is Tsar Nicholas II. He is over here on the far left with the beard and the goatee. And the white-haired priest beside him is anointing the crown of his head. So what I'm showing you is sacred anointing of the crown and secular royalty, kings. Now, our sutra described something in between, which is a chakravartin, a wheel-turning king, who is both a worldly monarch, but also a deity, a divinity from the heavens. In this picture, Emperor or Russian Tsar Nicholas II, this is from the earliest, the late 19th century, just before the 20th century, when he went through the Eastern Orthodox rite, the Eastern Catholic Church, of having oil put on the crown of his head by this priest, right? And you can see all of the generals are around him, and the nobility, the Russian nobles are witnessing this ceremony. Okay, how about that? Now, I'm going to come out of that and go back to my text. Here's the 10th stage. Okay, here we are. I have to share that. Okay, now the what I've discovered in this research is that cultures worldwide from the earliest times all invoke this process of water or oil, most often it's oil, being dripped on the crown of the head, on the top of the head, in order to accomplish certain goals. And one of them that I've learned is healing and health. For example, in classical traditional Indian medicine called Ayurveda, there's a practice called panchakarma. And it involves anointing the body in different places, including the head, but not limited to the head, with oil for health reasons. And it's been a teaching for a very long time that when you put oil on the body, it seals the pores of the skin and it keeps disease away, interestingly, at a time of pandemic. You can't seal the nostrils, so it doesn't work with the lungs. But the traditional teachings were that if you put the right kind of oil at the right part of the body, it will keep away vapors and wind, and also dead bodies, corpses, were anointed with oil to keep ghouls and goblins and vampires. Vampires? I don't know. Vampires don't drink dead blood, right? So to keep ghouls and goblins from coming to try to devour the soul of the person. So traditional thought about putting oil on the body had a lot to do with health. There's another major purpose of this practice that's appearing in our sutra today, which is courtesy and welcoming, hospitality. It's been the custom, particularly in the Middle East, but also India, Iran, Persia, that when a guest comes, you take fragrant oil from sacred sources. For example, they say oil that has been offered to an altar, sometimes water that was used to write out sacred texts would be put into a mixture that you then use. So if you're using, like, for example, Chinese calligraphy, right? The water that you dip the brush in, clean the brushes with, if you've been writing the sutras out or sacred texts, that water has been sanctified, and you use that water to put into a blend that you then can put on the crown of the head. The Indian practice of putting a bindi here in the third eye comes from the same place, the same idea. So welcoming guests, hospitality, is another time when people will put fragrant oil on each other's face or head. And in the Zoroastrians, this went on to another practice where you would greet them with anointing the crown with a mirror and then say words of greeting. So how interesting, right? How old this practice is. But then the one that concerns us today is the religious use of this. And let me mention how far and wide this practice goes and how fundamental. Where does the word Christian come from? Well, from Christ, right? Christ, where does Christ come from? Christ is not a name, it's a title. The anointed one, right? And Messiah has something to do with the same root, which is chrism, C-H-R-I-S-M, has to do with having been anointed. And chrism is often used for the oil that you then anoint with. So Christians means the ones who have already had the top of their crown of their head blessed. They've been baptized. Baptism is an early form of it. And then in Roman Catholic faith, when someone dies, you perform what are called extreme unction. Unction is related to the same idea of blessing on the head. And the priest will come in to drop holy water on the head of the dying person as they leave. So you come in and you're baptized, and you leave and you get the same rite. So in other words, this Christian rite of putting holy water or oil on the crown of the head is part and parcel of holy life, of the sacred life. They say apparently for Hindus and Zoroastrians and Sikhs, I'm not sure about Sikhs as much, but I know about the Jains, that in a normal day you might bless with water or an oil on the crown of the head multiple times in a single day. So how thoroughly imbued with this practice are the world's religions. When we, as Buddhists, before we begin a week-long retreat, a Buddhist Fochi, a Buddhist 7, or a Guanyin week retreat, we have a practice called sajing, right? Where we sprinkle the boundaries of the practice, the Bodhimanda, the field of practice where we're going to do our chanting. We recite a mantra, and the host holds a bowl like this. I'll take my teacup here, it holds a bowl, and takes a willow branch, if you have willows. If not, you take whatever greenery fits, and you recite a mantra connected to Guanyin Bodhisattva, who you see with the Jingping, with her pure vase, and you walk around and everybody's reciting and the host sprinkles the boundaries. Sajing. That's the very same idea. And as for the Buddhists among us, when we see Guanyin Bodhisattva with her pure vase, right, with her pure thermos, Guanyin Bodhisattva with her pure thermos and her willow branch, she is there to sprinkle what's called sweet dew, ganlu shui, on the heads of those who need cooling, who need security, who need sanctuary, who need a harbor, who need relief and rescue from the burning fires of afflictions. Guanyin will anoint your crown with sweet dew. How about that? So our Mahayana practice is full of this ritual, this practice of anointing the crown. I'm going to move to another document here for just a second and go to not that one, but this one. All right, and I'm going to reshare now. Okay, there we go. Okay, what do I have? I have the ritual for creating a Catholic bishop. Really? Oh, well, we could do that. No, we can't. With great respect, thank you to the Catholics for posting their rituals online. And I can do this because I witnessed it. I witnessed, as I mentioned before, the consecration of Bishop John Wester. He was the auxiliary bishop of San Francisco, made the auxiliary bishop of San Francisco when I was there witnessing. I was invited to be an interfaith witness. And it was fascinating because I had never imagined that in the process of creating a bishop, there would be anointing of the crown. There would be this consecration. The very same thing that I had read in the sutras was, well, no, the very same thing, I don't know if it's the same thing. I saw a ritual enacted in St. Mary's Cathedral in San Francisco that brought to mind what I had read in the 10 Stages chapter of the Flower Garland Sutra. And I thought, wow, how fascinating. Now I'm scrolling down because it happens late. There's lots and lots and lots of, this is a involved rite, holy rite in the Roman Catholic Church. And we're getting there. Got it. Okay. Now, here's what happens. The cardinal or in this case, it was multiple cardinals. It was 3 cardinals, one from Los Angeles, one from San Francisco, one from Portland, perhaps, Oregon, had come down and had gotten Bishop John, Bishop Wester, was in his, they put the robe on him and his mitre and his hat and his crozier, his staff and his ring, and he had prostrated himself flat. He had dingly. Are you follow? This is Sam. You don't need to transmit. I'll just see if I can explain it. Right? So he had bowed, and he bowed flat, not the our Mahayana 5-point bow, but the Tibetan bow where you go completely flat. And then he stood up and he knelt down, and the bishop came down, the cardinal came down and removed his rings and things from his hands, and picked up this gremial. I'm not sure what that is, but I think it's the vessel that he used that had oil in it. And they put a collar over the robes of the new bishop-elect who was about to be brought into the position. He was about to show 职位, right? He's about to be elected. And here's what happened. At the conclusion of the first verse, the bishop rises and sits on the stool before the middle of the altar, takes his mitre, takes off his rings and gloves, puts on the ring again, and receives the gremial from the ministers. He dips the thumb of his right hand in the holy chrism, that's the oil in the container, and anoints the head of the bishop-elect, kneeling before him, making first the sign of the cross on the crown, then anointing the rest of the crown, saying, "May thy head be anointed and consecrated by heavenly benediction in the pontifical order." He makes with his right hand the sign of the cross 3 times over the head of the elect, and he says the formula, "Peace be with you and with thy spirit." Okay, then he cleanses his hands with breadcrumbs, which I like, and there's more music, and he says, this is very interesting. Listen here. "May this, O Lord, flow abundantly upon his head. May this run down upon his cheeks. May this extend unto the extremities of the body, so that inwardly he's filled with the power of thy spirit, and outwardly be clothed with that spirit. May constant faith, pure love, sincere piety abound in him. May his feet be thy gift, by thy gift be beautiful for announcing the glad tidings of peace, for announcing the glad tidings of thy good things. Grant to him the ministry of reconciliation in word and in deed, in the power of signs and wonders. Let his speech and preaching be not in the persuasive words of human wisdom, but in showing the spirit and power. Give him the keys of the kingdom of heaven, so he can use of, not boast of the power which you give unto edification, not for destruction. Whatsoever he shall bind upon earth, let it be bound likewise in heaven, etc. So wonderful benediction here. And then on down, the next part where anointing happens is on the hands. The antiphon before the psalms had begun, the music has happened. One of the longer strips from the 8 above mentioned are placed on the neck of the bishop-elect. The consecrator sits down, takes the mitre. The bishop-elect kneels with his hands joined. The consecrator anoints with chrism, the oil, the hands of the bishop-elect in the form of a cross by drawing 2 lines with the thumb of his right hand, which has been dipped in the oil, namely from the thumb of the right hand to the index finger of the left, from the thumb of the left hand to the index finger of the right. And he says, "May these hands be anointed with the sanctified oil and the chrism of sanctification, as Samuel anointed David to be king and prophet, so that they might be anointed and consecrated." How about that? There we go. So, how interesting that in the Roman Catholic faith, when someone is about to do what our Bodhisattva has now done, there is a profound and very, you could say, beautifully articulated process whereby one takes themselves to that position. One, you don't take yourself, where one has been appointed to the position. What does our sutra say? This is known as being appointed to the rank of a king. Ever after, the prince is counted as a kshatriya king who has been anointed on the crown. He immediately is able to practice the 10 wholesome paths and is called a wheel-turning monarch. So how about that? Isn't that interesting? Here's the Avatamsaka Sutra, the 10 stages chapter, that is bringing to life this ancient ritual that we find in so many other traditions, right? How fascinating. 1 second here. I'm looking for, there we go. All right. Here we are. We hear in the world about people's aversion to the Flower Garland Sutra so that they don't lecture it. It's not explained, except very rarely. And one of the main objections to the Flower Garland Sutra from people who mostly have never opened it is that it's too lofty, too philosophical, too much Sanskrit, they say, right? So as a result, we don't lecture on it. We don't explain it. Master Hua, our founder, said, we do. And he gave 9 years of his life every single night explaining the Flower Garland Sutra, so that we who follow now in the 21st century can keep that wisdom flowing. And when we do, what do we discover? We discover something mystical, something mysterious, to be sure, this cultural touchstone of so many different cultures, from the Egyptians to the Roman Catholics, from the Hindus and Brahmins to the Zoroastrians, whereby when someone comes to a position of not only worldly prominence, like a king, but also in the heavens, if you allow us to take you to the heavens to see what's going on, and then into spiritual prominence, into leadership. There's a necessary step whereby oil or water is put on the crown of your head. And in the Catholics, it's their hands as well. So that fascinates me, that this is explained in the sutra. Now, the sutra gives us some Indian cultural references, such as kings with harems. I guess that's not exclusively Indian, is it? Kings have many wives. Certainly in China that was true, and still true certain places. But the elephant, golden thrones on top of the elephant, banners and pennants, incense and flowers and music, water from the 4 oceans, golden vessel. These are specific to Indian culture during the Buddhist time. But as we read that, by the way, that the Catholic liturgy that we were following was approved in the 19th century. So, and it's been updated. In Vatican II, it changed. They removed the hands part at one point. But that is to say, that has been the way it's done. If you're a Catholic bishop ascending to the role, That's been done for 100 plus years now. So here we are in the 21st century. What are we following? We're following the description of a wheel-turning monarch, a Chakravartin, so that what? So we can understand what it's like when a bodhisattva becomes a 10th stage bodhisattva. This is all metaphor. But it's interesting that the sutra goes into this description of a process that must be familiar enough to people that the sutra, when the sutra refers to it, we go, oh, like that, huh? Okay, we know what that is. So, oh, the bodhisattva is like that too. Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? Okay, at this point, I would like to invite anybody listening in, any of the bhikshus who are there, if you got a comment or an observation or a reflection that you'd like to share, please do. I'll just wait in case anybody has one. If not, I'll go on, but I wanted to be sure that I left some space for people to reflect on this. It's different when I'm, yep, there we go.
I was gonna say, maybe if you give us some time, we can talk about the online practices. I don't have too much about anointing the crown. That's
You want to identify yourself, please?
this is Jing Chuan, Berkeley
Hi,
Monastery. I'm here with Jing Wei Shi. We're listening
Amitabha,
together, so we
Amitabha,
can
okay, great. Yeah,
study
good.
together.
How is Jin Husher on also?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Right now.
All right, so the two of you are there.
Yeah.
And yeah, anointing the crown. This is obscure, huh?
Yeah, we were looking at all the pictures. It was quite fascinating.
Fascinating stuff. Yeah.
And you're right. Christ is anointing. I didn't
That's
right.
right. Christ is a title. Jesus the Christ, some people say. So Jesus of Nazareth was the name of the carpenter, right? But he was called Christ as a title, the same way we say Buddha, the awakened.
There must. Right. I can add just that tomorrow we have the biggest and the most important holiday in the Christian tradition, right? It's Easter.
There you go. Tomorrow is Easter, which is another whole part of that story.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, where he rolled away the rock, and no. So yeah. So you wanted to you had a comment, Jin Chuan?
Well, I'll say if we're okay, we can talk a little bit about our BBM online programs with people.
Sure.
Okay. So in terms of the monastery, I think people know we have been broadcasting a lot of our ceremonies online, and we are planning on also broadcasting our ceremonies online through Zoom, so those who are in China can participate.
Okay, Jin Chuan, one second. Would you like to, if I stop sharing, do you want to tour us through the website?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay, and Cliff is translating for Chinese listeners. YouTube they won't be able to get 早晚课, but they will be able to get the rest of our things through Zoom, as long as Zoom is accessible in China.
Yeah. So we're actually testing that right now, and I think on Monday we'll probably launch everything for China as well for the Zoom. So the idea is, this is our website, and all our programs are here. And if you click the BBM online schedule, you get a chance to see everything kind of more lengthily laid out. And
you need to let us know what is that URL.
Okay, the URL is berkeleymonastery.org. And then for this website, you just click that link, but it's BBM-online. And then you come here, and then we have some things that we picked out for those who are new, who want to participate in some practices. And then if you want to do our day, like living like a day in the monastery, like a monk or a nun, we actually have quite a few people joining. It's pretty amazing. We have like,
50 people in the morning
join the morning
ceremony.
We've never had that many.
Never had it before. Yeah, that's a new experience.
And globally, we have Sangha, global Sangha.
Yeah, global Sangha. And we have, 60, 70 people for our Guanyin recitations regularly, with Jing Fosher's ground bell, maybe 50. So it's you can really see a community growing from practicing together. That's really quite wonderful. But you can join in, and then there's lots of classes. Like tonight, we have that. We almost have an event every night. We're adding something Wednesday afternoon because some people have been having questions around the practice, either Guanyin recitation or daily practices. So we're going to add in, I don't think it's on the schedule below, but the idea is going to be a kind of a 1 to 1:30 on Wednesday, kind of a Dharma practice Q&A, 1 to 1:30 after we do the Guanyin and Amitabha recitation. So everyone's welcome to join that. So that's going to be, I mean, that's currently ongoing, but we're going to add a Zoom option for morning ceremony and evening ceremony as well. And so just so people know, we're going to actually have to change our Zoom meeting number, but we're going to do that on Monday, and we'll make sure everyone knows that, because we're just shipping accounts, and then after that we'll have it pretty much locked in, as that will be the way that you get the ceremonies anytime you want, based on the schedule. And then the YouTube, for those who want to just watch it via YouTube, you can go to the main ceremonies. You want to say anything else?
I think this is true.
Yeah, it's been actually quite inspiring for myself, because all of a sudden it's like you're part of a global, like Jing Wei said, you're part of a global cultivating community. You know, it's like, wow, you feel like you're with a lot of, although everyone's not presently there in their physical body, but you can kind of feel the consciousness. There's a feeling like everyone's cultivating together, which is quite wonderful.
Yeah, you also want to mention the other down at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so we have the Avatamsaka Sutra lecture, which is this one. Jing He is doing the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursdays, 5 to 5:45. I'm adding this got new Dharma practice Q&A on Wednesday. Stephen Tainer is teaching on Yogacara for those who are interested. And then the Infinite Life Sutra, Jing Forsher is mainly teaching that Thursday night, 7:30 to 9:30. No, it should be 9.
9.
Yeah, Thursday and 7:30 to 9, James Baraz discuss insight meditation. If you want to learn a bit insight meditation. And then Marty Verhoeven is doing the Avatamsaka Sutra as well. He's focusing on the 9th chapter. And then Heng Sure is lecture on the Vajra Prajnaparamita Sutra on Fridays. And then Tuesdays at 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. is Kevin Griffin is teaching Dharma recovery. This is for people who are maybe kind of working with some addiction, or want to make the Dharma kind of really make transformation into their process. Because all of us are recovering in some way
from our identity.
From our identity, our addiction to our identity. So yeah, there's a lot of Dharma practice. I was counting up the hours. You can probably spend about 4 to 5 hours in the monastery online every day if you wanted to.
Without having to self-quarantine before you, before you're qualified. You can do it right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, excellent. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll stop.
This is, mind you, this is only our 3rd week of offering this, and so there's lots of fits and starts and lots of room to grow and improve. And we appreciate people's feedback, letting us know how it's working for you. It's interesting that, for example, morning chanting in the monastery, it takes place at 5 a.m. So we don't have that many people showing up in person at 5 a.m. in downtown Berkeley, but with our Berkeley Monastery online, BBM online, we've got 40 to 50 people joining every morning, which is fantastic. So, okay, here is our registration form. This is the way for our Zoom events, we are able to keep it relatively secure and not be Zoom bombed or invaded by people with some intent other than cultivation, right? So.
Okay, so that's it on our side. I'll stop sharing.
Okay, yeah, give me my screen back. Okay, now, next week, we're going to, hold on here. Medicine, praise. Medicine Buddha praise. Here it is. Oh, where we are. Documents. Medicine Buddha mantra. Praise. Let's see here. I'll go. I'm looking for. One moment. Here we go. There we are. Medicine Buddha praise. And we found it right there. Okay, now I will share that. Because we're in this time of coronavirus, people pray. There's prayer going on. And there's prayer is a tool that that faithful believers in religion can call on to the degree that they believe, right? If you pray and doubt, it's kind of the mind used against itself, and you often wind up more frustrated because you wonder if God or whoever you're praying to is really hearing your cry, hearing your request. So if you can pray without doubt, no matter who you're praying to or whatever divinity or power you're hoping to invoke, because of the sincerity of single-minded focus and the what do you say? Just the word that we use is sincere. Somebody mentioned sincere. Sincere is sincere, a Latin word that means no wax. No wax, meaning what? You don't have a mask on. Your true face, your Banlai Mian Mu, your original face is showing as you chant, as you pray. So if we can pray without wax, right? We can truly pray no matter what method, what tool we're using, then it's heard, it's received. And certainly medical professionals, the ones I know, will tell you that praying for patients to heal actually works. So sincerely, in the Buddhist tradition, we have this tool, the name of Medicine Buddha. There is a Buddha other than Shakyamuni Buddha, our founder, another Buddha. His name is Medicine Buddha, or the Healing Buddha, different from Amitabha, a third Buddha, who is often the source of people's prayers, sincere invocation of the name. So Medicine Buddha is one of the Buddhas who says, if you recite my name, good things happen, particularly in the form of healing. So this is a perfect tool to use in a time of pandemic. And how do we do it? We can do it in English. We can do it with a banjo. My goodness, who would think? Medicine Master, thus come one, Tathagata, Rulai in Chinese, the title of the Buddha. We say, Namo, I take refuge in, I find my shelter in, a safe harbor, I find security in. That's our melody. Medicine Buddha has three names. The Buddha Shaozai Yin Shou, the Buddha who dispels calamities and lengthens life. I return to find safe harbor in this Buddha. And he's also known as the Buddha of lapis lazuli light. The blue healing light comes from Medicine Buddha. And we use that to invoke his name. So in between those names, we repeat the first name, Medicine Master, thus come one. And the 2 times means we do it, each one we do it twice. Ready? Medicine Master, thus come one. Namo, Namo. Medicine Master, thus come one. Namo, dispels calamities and lengthens life. Namo, Namo. He dispels calamities and lengthens life. Namo, Namo. Medicine master, thus come on. Namo, Namo. Medicine master, thus come on. Namo, Namo. Lapis lazuli light, Buddha of lapis lazuli light. Namo, Namo. Buddha of lapis lazuli light. Namo, Namo. One more time, medicine master. Medicine master, thus come on. Namo, medicine master, thus come on. Namo, Namo. So you can just keep that going through the day. You know, it's nice to walk with. Medicine master, thus come on. I find that's a very happy sound to keep circling in my heart, particularly when, as our medical expert, Dr. Fauci in the US, tells us how this week and the weeks to come are going to be hard to get through, right? Hard to get through. It's good to have Medicine Buddha's name kind of circling in my heart and just put it into my energy field and let it kind of with my heartbeat. You can sync it with your heartbeat, you know, kind of. How does the heart beat? Medicine master, thus come on. Namo, Namo. Medicine master, thus come on. Namo, Namo. That helps, I find. That gives me a place that doesn't move, doesn't shift, doesn't go away. Medicine Buddha's vows have been with us for a long time. And I might mention that our master Jinhe is explaining the Medicine Buddha Sutra on our BBM online regularly throughout the week. So check that out and get an English language explanation of the sutra that describes the vows of Medicine Buddha. So there we are. We've spent another focused Saturday evening looking at our teachings on Flower Garland Sutra. And thank you all for joining. Delighted that you could be here. I appreciate very much the help from our volunteers who are tireless, indefatigable. You can't make them tired as they help bring this sutra forward in various languages too. So tell your friends as our quarantine period continues that the sutra is fascinating. The book that's been around for 2,500 years is now in English, and we're learning it both in English and Chinese and discovering the wisdom of the Bodhisattva path and the inspiration. So, okay, can we dedicate merit? Let's do it now, and I'll see you all this time next week. Here we go. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds away to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. I'm going to bow to the Buddhas on the altar here. You all see the Buddhas on the altar? And invite you all to do the same. And see you all next week. Second bow. Third bow. Bow in respect to the three jewels. See you all next week. Thanks for joining, everyone. Aum Mito Pho.